Greetings, everyone. Hope all of you are having an absolutely fantastic day. I finally finished my playthrough of Clair Obscur Expedition 33. What an amazing time. I'm really happy to finally be able to talk about this game. I don't even want to waste any more of your time. Let's go ahead and just jump right in with what I enjoyed about the experience. First and foremost, the narrative is incredible. One of the greatest stories ever told using the video game medium, bar none. From beginning to end, the story just never lets you go. I already had a video a few days ago saying that I feel like the first couple of hours that serve as the intro is one of the best intros I've ever seen in a video game. And the rest of the story is honestly very consistent with that level of quality. So in this game, you play as Expedition 33. It's kind of a game where you don't have a main character. You could say that the main character is Gustav or Mael or Verso, or maybe it's even one of the other characters that you gravitate towards more. But all of them are part of Expedition 33. Now, they are on a mission to journey into the continent and reach a villain known as the Paintress. The Paintress sits in a monolith, and at the top of the monolith is a number. At the start of the game, that number is 34. Every year, she counts down by 1, so she'll erase that number and then put the next one up. And any person who has an age that matches that number automatically dies. So at the beginning of the game, the number on the monolith is 34, and you watch as it's counted down to 33, and then everybody in the game who's 33 immediately passes away. Insane moment that really hammers home how desperate the situation is for everybody and how much these people have given in to despair. Now, these people don't sit idly by and watch this happen. Every year, some of the people who know they're going to die next year go out on an expedition to the continent, and they try to figure out a way to reach the Paintress. Now, they don't necessarily expect to reach her, but the hope is that they can make things easier for the next expedition, and then finally one of these groups will be able to reach the Paintress and stop this cycle from happening. So by the time the game comes around, there have already been 67 other expeditions that have failed to reach the Paintress, and the hope is that yours will be the last one. Throughout your experience, an incredible job is done of reinforcing how deep the sacrifices have been for all of the expeditions that came before you. The flags from previous groups are literally the save points, and you'll see their bodies and hear their logs throughout your adventure. And oftentimes those sacrifices are even reinforced in the environment, where some of the logs will say, hey, we cleared these obstacles, or we made this easier, so now you could just easily climb up a surface, as opposed to whatever the previous expedition had to do. Just really cool stuff. And throughout the game, there's a strong sense of loss. Not just the loss of the people who have went on these expeditions, but also the loss of the people who they have had to leave back home. And a lot of it has to do with, how do you handle loss? How do you handle grief? How do you handle desperately missing someone who you cannot see anymore? It's really deep, it's really impactful, and pretty much all of the major characters in the game are dealing with this on one level or another, but it's in very different ways, so it never gets old or stale. And yet, despite how heavy the subject matter can be, there are some amazing moments of levity in this game. It really has a fantastic sense of humor and some great character moments where you're laughing right along with the party members. So it's not a situation where the game is dreary at all, or you're just constantly moping around. Like, there's a real sense of hope in that, hey, we're going to figure this out and we're going to do this, and we're all in this together. That is done really well. Now, if you've been on the channel for a while, you already know that one of the most important things for me with a narrative-focused game like this is the ending. I feel like there's a lot of games that do a great job of setting up a mystery and giving you a great journey, and then everything falls apart in the end. They can't quite stick the landing. Expedition 33 is the exact opposite. Absolutely one of the best endings for a game that I've ever seen. You actually have a choice at the end, so there are two different endings. The best in-game choice I have ever seen. Super, super impactful, bittersweet, pretty much no matter what you do. Something where you'll be thinking about that choice long after you finish the game. It was just so well executed. And the deeper you go into the game and the more you pull at all the threads so that you truly understand what's happening in the narrative, the more impactful that final decision is going to be for you. Just absolutely amazing stuff. Another thing that I really like about this game, and by now you probably like it too since you've been looking at footage of the experience, the graphics. Wow. This is the best looking game that has come out this year. Many people have said Expedition 33 looks like you walked into a painting, and I could not agree more. Just an amazing use of colors and depth. There is not a single time that I was playing this game where everything around me didn't look absolutely amazing. And one of the really nice things about it as well is that the environments are incredibly varied. One moment you'll be walking through snow, then you could be in a desert, then you could be in a forest, then you could be up in the sky. You never know when you walk through a portal what kind of environment you're going to be faced with. You just know it's going to look great. And that does even more to make the experience a really positive one. And it's not just the look of environments that's varied. They also have different effects happening in the environment sometimes that'll give it more variety as well. So you might enter a place with massive weapons that are basically dripping golden lava from the top of them. Or you might enter a place where to get to different areas of the environment, you have to ride on these flying saucers that basically serve as elevators. Or you might be in a place that's filled with abandoned trains and you have to climb up them in the sky in order to get to where you want to go. It's just all sorts of different cool things that make it really engaging to walk around in the different environments. And one thing that makes all of this even more impressive is that the game was made in Unreal Engine 5. And I know there's a lot of people who have had complaints about that engine, basically feeling that most of the games made using that engine all look the same. And Expedition 33, probably more than any other title I've seen, really cuts into that. It makes it clear, no, for a developer that has some real artistic creativity and a real vision for what they want the visual aesthetic of their game to look like, they can create something that's completely different from what we've seen from other developers on the market. And so it makes me really excited to find out what other titles are we going to get using this engine. The next thing I really liked about this game is the companions. Expedition 33 is an amazing group to travel around with. All of them have very different personalities. They all have very different mechanics, and they all have interesting backstories that help to inform why they went on the expedition and what kind of people they are now. It's just all really cool. I've seen some people say that as soon as you end the game, you're probably going to want to go into New Game Plus and experience it all over again. The companions are absolutely a big part of that. You have to get into Act 2 before you can really start digging into their backstories and learning about the companions. There is a relationship tracker, so you can have conversations with them, and most of them have one quest you can do that will give you more details and expand some of their mechanics as well. Absolutely, it's worth going through for all of them. Some really cool moments. The writing in this game is just stellar. They all feel like real people developing real relationships, and it's a joy to watch. Another thing I loved about this game is the music. This might be the largest soundtrack I've ever seen for a game. Like, I don't know how many tracks the soundtrack has, but it seems like everywhere I went, and every new enemy I encountered kind of had its own theme song to it, and the vast majority of it was really nice. I never heard a track that seemed really out of place or like something that was bad compared to the other tracks in the game. It just all flowed, and the music is a really nice compliment to the overall adventure. And then the last thing I want to mention, it's not really something I like about the game. It's just something I feel like I have to bring up. And honestly, it could probably use its own video. But how did Ubisoft screw this up? Like, apparently the 30 devs who are part of the Sandfall studio are all from Ubisoft, and they all felt like they had to leave in order to create something like this. That's insane. That's insane. Like, how did Ubisoft not take advantage and say, hey, we'll put forth the money and help to make this happen? It's just, it's extremely odd, and I gotta say, almost concerning, right? That these people basically felt like if we want to create true art like this, Ubisoft is not the place that we are going to be able to do it. Yikes. Moving right along, there is one aspect of the game that I'm neutral on, and that's the combat. So on the one hand, the combat is just, it's amazing. There's just no question about it. So on a basic level, it is turn-based, right? You take your turns and then the enemy takes their turn separately. However, there are dodge and parry mechanics that are in real time. So basically, as enemies do their moves, you can react in a way that will ensure your party experiences no damage. So it's actually possible, technically at least, to go through the entire game never having taken damage if your reactions are quick enough and consistent enough. Obviously, mine are not. It's an incredible system, just all the way around. Really cool, really interesting, forces the player to constantly pay attention, even when you're late in the game and you're dealing a gazillion damage at one time. You still have to ensure that the enemy is not overwhelming you. And so, unlike other RPGs where when you get to the late game, you're basically just sleepwalking through encounters, in this game, you always kind of have to, at least on some level, be engaged in the fight, because otherwise enemies can do some really nasty things to you. Speaking of the enemies, there are a ton of them, and there's a massive variety of different looks and mechanics. Now, keep in mind, it's a massive variety of mechanics because of how many different enemies there are, but each enemy only has about 2 or 3 different moves that they do. And so that can make it much easier for you to know, okay, I'm facing this guy, I know what kind of moves he does, and I know when I'm going to have to either dodge or parry. And so it creates an interesting dynamic where even though there's a wide variety of enemies, and many enemies will have different tiers, right? So you'll have a higher tier version of a particular foe that'll deal much more damage, and its combos will be much longer. But at the same time, once you're an experienced player, there's a degree of familiarity with how these fights are going to flow. And so you can kind of get into a rhythm with how you're going to deal with them. I said all that to say, I know there are a lot of people who are not giving this game a go because they are concerned about the combat. I am a player who does not play games for challenge. I have never played a Dark Souls game ever, specifically because I know they revolve around how challenging the combat encounters are. I still thoroughly enjoy the combat here and thoroughly enjoy the experience. And I definitely feel like you should go ahead and give this game a try, considering all of the amazing things that I talked about in the like section, even if the combat is not really going to be all that strong or great for you. It's not a major pull for me, but there's so many other things to like about this game that I feel like it's definitely worth playing. All that being said, I put this in the neutral section because I still feel like there's just way too much combat. It's got those JRPG tendencies to want to push you towards grinding, and you can barely take a couple of steps without an enemy being there who's just waiting for you to annihilate them. And for those of us who don't really play video games for combat, that can definitely get old. It was fine for me in Act 1 because the style of combat was very new and I was getting used to everything. And so fighting a lot made a lot of sense because I needed those reps to get more comfortable. In Act 2, it started to really wear on me. You're going to be facing enemies that do much longer combos, so it's going to be harder to dodge or parry them. Some of the bosses have multiple phases, and so it can be extremely difficult trying to get through those encounters. And so that made the overall experience of engaging in combat much less enjoyable for me during that time. I felt like combat got significantly better in Act 3 because unlike a lot of similar games, Expedition 33 lets you really just take everything and equip everything if you're willing to grind and go out there and get it. So you can get your characters to the point that they do massive numbers, like 1 billion in damage, if you play your cards right. And honestly, it's a ton of fun to put those kind of builds together, but it's not viable at all in the first 2 acts. So again, I feel like Act 1 is great. Act 2 combat kind of wears out its welcome. But then in Act 3, when you're really able to drill down and flesh out what kind of build you want, it's absolutely amazing experience, and combat shoots right up for me. So I put this in the neutral section. And again, even if you're reserved about it, I would still say you should go ahead and give this a go. All right, we finally got to the section with things that I don't like regarding the experience. If you've enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate you hitting that like button. It really helps out the channel and it lets me know what kind of content the channel wants to see. Thank you so much. First thing that I don't like about this game, you cannot manually save. You all already know if you've been watching the channel for a while, I hate it when devs do this. It never seems like a good idea. I just don't understand it at all. And Expedition 33 has a really bad save system, at least in KCD 2, even though it doesn't let you manually save, it makes regular saves at multiple major points throughout the game. So if there's something you want to go back and experience, you can relatively easily do that, which wasn't the case in KCD 1. So I really appreciated that improvement. Expedition 33 does not have this at all. Instead, it keeps the last 3 autosaves that the game has performed, which means if you want to go back to a moment that was 10 hours ago and re-experience a particular cutscene or a particular battle, there is no way for you to do that unless you start a completely new playthrough. I hate that. I hate that. I don't understand why there are so many devs who feel like that is a good experience. And that's the way it is in Expedition 33. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Another thing that I do not like about this game, there is no journal. So when you're exploring, there will be creatures that you can talk to who will ask for certain objects to be brought back to them. Now, in some cases, the object is in the same environment that the creature is sitting in, but in other cases, you have to go to a separate place in order to find that object and then come back and bring it back to them. And there's no journal that keeps track of what quest you have taken, and there's no marker to tell you where these creatures are, either on the world map or even when you get into the interior map for the different portals. So all the way around, the system is way more cumbersome than it has to be. And I found myself trying to just look things up because I'm like, I know somebody asked for this, but I don't remember who they were or where they were located. It's really weird that this stuff isn't available. And on a similar note, there is no mini-map and there's no map for the smaller areas you go into when you enter different portals. So there is a world map for when you're trying to travel to different areas. But if you're in an enclosed environment, there's no map you can reference to kind of know where you are. And this gets really, really annoying in the experience because oftentimes you'll come into an area and there's 3, maybe even 4 different directions you can go in, and it's not clear which one is going towards the main quest and which one is heading towards side quests. So I'm definitely the type of person, I like to be a completionist. I want to go to all of the different side quest areas, and then I'll go down the main quest path to make sure I'm doing everything that can be done in a particular environment. And of course, you can absolutely do that in Expedition 33, but it's more cumbersome than it should be. There were definitely many times where I was trying to backtrack and basically say, okay, did I cover all of this? Is this the direction that I came from? Is this where I'm supposed to go? Personally, I don't like any of that. And I definitely understand and appreciate those people who are like, I want as little information on the screen as possible. So no mini map, no compass, no nothing. Let me just roam around and figure it out. But I feel like at the very least, let me pull up a map. Even if you don't have a mini map, at least let me pull up a full map that gives me some idea of where I'm standing. I think that would have really helped in some cases. There is one thing about this game that I feel like is a bigger knock against it. There's really no character arcs, and people keep saying that this is a JRPG. I'm not really sure if I would agree with that. I kind of feel like this game is closer to Elden Ring than it is to Final Fantasy or Metaphor. But if it is supposed to be a JRPG, one of the real hallmarks for those series is that all of the characters have deep backstories, and then they go through serious situations that cause a character arc where they grow and change in some sort of way throughout the adventure. That does not happen in Expedition 33. You can make the case for Mael. I think Mael changes quite a bit, but all the rest of them, the person that you meet at the beginning of the game is pretty much the exact same person you meet at the end of the game. They go through a lot of things and they have to figure their way out through a bunch of situations, but it doesn't actually change them as people. It doesn't change their perspective. It doesn't make them do things differently, not in any real tangible way. And so I think that's definitely a fault of this game. And you can make the case that the character development is a little more stagnant than it should be, again, considering how strong the narrative and the overall companions and writing actually is. But despite those issues that I listed, once again, this is an amazing game. Unquestionably in the Game of the Year discussion. If you love great stories in games, if you love great narratives, no question, you should be checking this out. I had an amazing time. Really can't speak highly enough on it. And I'm really, really excited for a sequel. I'm excited to see what else this studio is capable of doing. I don't think there's any question they are on everybody's radar now, and we're going to be watching to see what comes next. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Appreciate you all looking at the video. Let me know your thoughts down below. Did you play it? If so, did you agree with my perspectives? Is there anything I said that you would have stated differently? If you haven't played it, what's holding you back? And did anything in this review convince you that maybe you should give this game a try? Looking forward to hearing your feedback, and I hope you all enjoyed this video. Take care.